Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'm going to be doing a first impressions of the Workout Warrior Weightlifting Shoes. So these were a curiosity buy for myself off of Workout.Eu. I got hit with an email saying that they just launched a shoe, and of course I had to buy it because I was very interested. Also, in their description of this shoe, it says it's like the best parts of like a ROM2 and an ANTA 1, so that was very intriguing. And so I have a lot of thoughts about this model, and now this is likely not going to be the most positive first impressions video, but do note that I do want a few more training sessions in this model before I really draw conclusions. And also, I am trying to give them a little bit of grace here because obviously for a first pass at a weightlifting shoe, I'm sure it's very tough to nail a shoe that works for a lot of different foot anatomies. So do keep in mind that I might have some harsh criticisms here, but I'm trying to be a little bit more positive and optimistic with the shoe, and I want to give it more sessions before I really draw out like conclusive cons with this model. So the first impression that I have with this shoe is I'm not the biggest fan of the leather upper construction. So with this model, you have a heavier leather upper that extends throughout the entirety of the shoe. It is not the most breathable, and it's kind of like feels very thick and chunky at times. And also what I've noticed is like for my foot anatomy, to get the shoe tight enough for my wants and needs, especially during that break-in period, I was having a little bit of overlap down here at the bottom of the toe box. I'm having that going on in both shoes here. So as you can see, that can be a little bit problematic, but also something I've noticed is like the volume of this upper is very spacious. However, it feels narrow at the same time. And I'm not convinced that this leather upper is going to be the best when it comes to spillover when you're catching weight as the shoe gets more worn in and more broken in over time. So as you can see, this leather upper kind of like spills over already. And so if you have wide feet, I would definitely consider that. But for the most part, I'm not the biggest fan of the leather upper in the shoe. I was hoping it would feel a little bit more like the leather in the ANTA 2 or the ROM2, but this leather feels a little bit more like what you get on like a satchel versus like a traditional weightlifting shoe that has a slightly more dense rubber to its upper construction. Another first impression that I have with the shoe is that its fit is really interesting. Now, its midsole and sole look very similar to the Nike ROM4. However, when I put the shoe on, I'm not sure if it's this forefoot rubber outsole here or what it is, but it was so uncomfortable through my forefoot that I actually had to take this shoe off once I got like 215 pounds with my clean and jerk because it was just unbearable. And I put on my ANTA 2 after that because it was just that bad in my forefoot. Now I'm curious as to why the midsole and forefoot of this model feel different than the ROM4 because they are very similar with their build. And when I build out my review, I plan to wear both of those shoes at the same time to see like, okay, where are the discrepancies between these shoes' soles? Because from like a first glance, they look very similar, but their feeling and fit are very different. And I'm really curious as to why, if I'm the only one that feels this, my foot anatomy doesn't align with this shoe. So that's definitely something I'm going to explore more with this model. I don't want to say they're uncomfortable for everybody. It might just be my foot anatomy, but I do want to try to unpack and kind of like reverse engineer as to why I'm feeling that with this shoe, because even in other shoes that don't necessarily align with my feet, they're usually not like so unbearable that I want to take them off. But this has been one of my first pairs in probably like a year and a half that I have just like put on and had to get off my feet because of their feel when training. The third first impression that I have with the shoe is I like the theory behind the dual strap system and the shoelaces. However, something I've noticed is that the laces run exceptionally long, and the Velcro I'm hoping is more resilient over time because it does feel pretty fine. I'm not sure about the longevity of this Velcro, so I am optimistic that it will hopefully last a while, but I would love to see like a shortened lacing system here, and then also with the straps, maybe bringing down this base of the Velcro a little bit lower because like this is already starting to kind of peel on me down here. And when I pull it super tight, to get the shoe secure for my needs, you have this overlap, but then you also have that strap coming pretty dang close to the floor, which was something that also plagued the ROM2. So definitely some good and bad with the strap and lacing system. So I think if you invest in this shoe, take the security with a grain of salt. With the longer laces, it's also kind of awkward to like have to tuck them under and then get the strap nice and tight, because if the laces are running too long and getting in the way there, it will lose some of that strap security. So definitely keep an eye on that. You have a full rubber outsole in this shoe. The effective heel height comes in at 0.75 inches. So from a specs point of view, it is very similar to other weightlifting shoes in that context, and you do have a little bit of toe spring in this shoe. So as you can see, You don't have a fully flat toe, so definitely keep that in mind as well, that if you are typically forward with your weightlifting movements, you are going to want to have to like work through this shoe a little bit more, because with this toe spring, you're going to be a little bit more inclined to be on the toes. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But overall, those are my first impressions with this shoe. The shoe retails around like 127 USD. And then I believe with shipping and stuff, I paid around like 150 USD. So it is a more budget-friendly weightlifting shoe. And again, I'm trying to give this shoe a little bit more grace, and I plan to test them more thoroughly over the next few weeks to build out my full review. But from my first impressions, I'm not the biggest fan of this model. And if you're gonna be spending 150 USD on a shoe, you might wanna look into other models that have already been kind of like tested and are more tried and true regarding their performance for their price. And that being said, if you have additional questions on this model in the meantime, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.